Hey, good morning, guys. It is, oh gosh, I think May 12th. No, 13th. I'm sorry, Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all you moms out there, or moms of sons and daughters watching this. I thought I'd give a video, finally, update of my overhead console that I had installed. I had promised myself that my next video would be an update on how I fixed this guy showing dashes for the ambient, outside ambient air temperature, but everything else working. You know, the compass would work, estimated fuel mileage, average fuel mileage, destination till empty on gallons for the fuel tank, the timer, everything worked perfectly on this guy, except for the temperature. It would always show constantly two dashes right next to each other horizontally. So after almost, let's see, how long has it been, guys? 4 weeks of my own diagnosis and following the Chrysler's factory service manual body diagnostic procedures. This is a whole list of stuff that I went through. In fact, I'll show you in here. It actually has, and that's the great thing about these factory service manuals, is they will actually have common diagnostic procedures for most of the error codes that show up inside of a vehicle. That's why these things are so valuable, you know, for us DIY and professional technicians. But this, you know, of course says displaying double dash and so on in the display. And what I was able to do over the course of a couple of weeks after work is follow about 4 of these steps. Actually 5 if you count the back one. The first 3 required a DRB3 tool, which is I don't know if it's Chrysler, maybe it is. Somebody out there maybe could post a message. But it's a handheld scanner, computer basically, that specifically speaks to these vehicle body control modules, transmission control module, the powertrain control module, along with programming your CTM, your central timer module, recalibrating certain things like your ABS and your HVAC system and whatnot. And the main thing the DRB3 does in this case, let's see, the second step. First step checks I don't know how well my camera's picking up the text. It'll check communication over the bus line. Second one, we'll check the actual overhead console. The third one, we'll do an auto self-test of the HVAC control and, of course, the overhead console. But what took me so long, you know, between the course of the last couple of weeks, is going through these steps, sleeping on them, feeling like I did a good job, you know, diagnosing them. Coming back the next couple of days after work, redoing the test just to make sure I didn't miss a step or do anything wrong. And these are just basically doing continuity tests, ohm tests, and whatnot on the actual ambient temperature sensor to the HVAC control unit, this guy right here, all the way down to the CTM, making sure there's continuity and that the proper ohms are being seen from the ambient temperature sensor outside to this guy. Because the way it works on these 2001 to 2000, no, I think it's 2001 and up, is the ambient air temperature sensor sends a signal to the HVAC unit, and from the HVAC unit it sends that data to the CTM. The CTM interprets it and then sends it up to the overhead console to display the information. Why Chrysler did it that way, I don't know. It seems to make sense to the Chrysler technicians, but running those tests, everything came out fine. There was nothing wrong. In fact, you can see where I actually skinned some of the wire back to run these tests, and I'll get into it here in a minute, but also in the beginning, I went to the I went to a couple of different junkyards and even bought one off of a fellow member at Dakota-Durango.com, an HVAC unit, thinking that maybe my old one was a different style. Maybe Chrysler put out two styles, one that could communicate with outside ambient temperature sensors, or had that option, and then another style that was a base model, basically, which I thought mine was, but it turned out neither of them mattered. All these HVAC units, at least in my 2001, are capable of displaying temperature and interpreting it and doing it basically anything that the CTM or PCM needs it to do. So after that passed, I tried three of them, three different ones. Little inconsistencies, like the first two, I'd plug in, everything would work, even the AC, but the AC light wouldn't come on. I later found out that when you change these out, you have to calibrate them and program them to your CTM, or the light doesn't work. And sometimes it'll only blow on defrost. But anyways, back to the story. After about 2.5 weeks of doing these steps and making sure, or at least I felt, in my opinion, that I was 110% on these 5 steps back here. Everything was reading right. I triple checked all my wiring configurations; those were perfect. I finally found a guy here local that worked out of his garage that, according to his post on Craigslist, and later after I went to his garage, his home, saw all of his certifications and whatnot. He'd been with Chrysler for almost 30 years. Was one of the original technicians to help develop the Prowler, even. I thought that was kind of interesting. Saw the certificate for that. Of course, had all his ASE certifications, but the important thing is that he had a DRB3 tool that we could hook up to this and run these first 3 tests. And of course, I've never seen a DRB3 tool. I wish I had videoed the whole diagnostic and stuff for you guys. Maybe I'll do it next time, because I'm going to go back out there. He's about an hour away, but I'm going to go back out there and get a couple other things changed and configured and calibrated and software update. But basically what we did is we ran through these 3 steps. They all passed. So basically 1 through 8 passed. There was no reason the double dashes should have been showing on this. Sorry, got distracted. There's no reason that the double dashes should have been shown. So we even went back through those 5 steps, testing everything, ohming everything out, continuity test, and couldn't figure it out. So we sat back for a minute, thought about it, hooked the DRB back up, and what we found out, and this was kind of interesting, is that this overhead console, the original one, not the original, but the one that I put in, because my original just had the clip on here, didn't have the mini trip computer. This unit, this guy, is from a 2002 Dakota Durango. I'm sorry, 2002 Dakota, not Dakota Durango, but 2002 Dakota. So on his DRB3 tool, we flash updated the software inside of this guy. And yes, you do have updates that you can apply to your HVAC unit. We updated the CTM to the latest version, this to the latest version, and three or four, I think there were 3 or 4 settings in the PCM that were updated to the latest version, or at least for 2001, the latest revision that Chrysler had put out. That took a little bit because we had to search for them on his Dealer Connect, log into their website, and that took most of a Saturday last weekend to do. And believe it or not, even after updating those 3 things, this thing still showed dashes. So at that point, we thought, well, okay, it's got to be a software issue between the software that's on this guy talking to the CTM versus with the data that this is giving the CTM, and the CTM is pushing over to there. So we both decided that it would be time to try to hunt down a 2001 model, and I found this off of eBay. This came out of a 2001 Durango, 2001 Durango SLT with the 4.7 liter engine. It was pretty close to my Dakota, except for the fact that it was Durango. But as you can see, everything else works on this. We now have temperature, so that kind of proved a little bit of a theory that we had, that the 2002 console had some kind of software conflict between the data coming from the HVAC unit, or maybe even the data coming from the ambient temperature sensor to the HVAC unit, to the CTM, to the overhead. So I got this in a couple of days ago, put it in. I've been running it ever since. The only thing I had to do was calibrate the compass. It was a little wacky, and I think it came out of where'd this thing come out? I think it came out of New York or Indiana, somewhere around there. The only other thing besides calibrating it, it was set to zone 8 for the compass, and where I'm at in Dallas is zone 7, so I had to set that via the DRB3 tool, but everything else works perfectly on this thing. The only other thing I don't like about it is I guess I got used to this, and the way this looks. It looks a little bit more streamlined to me, with all the commands up here up front, and just a storage bin in the back. And this thing has the trip computer up here, and then the home link stuff right here, which it's kind of clunky. Like I said, I've been driving with it for maybe 3 or 4 days now, and kind of getting used to it. But as you can see with that other one, I had to cut out some of my headliner, which I'm not too worried about. I've got to replace this headliner anyways, because I've got these gouges up here, and if I decide to keep this, I can fix these little things here. But I wanted to give you guys an update on what the issue was and how I resolved it. That was by far the trickiest, or at least most time-consuming diagnostic process that I went through. I learned a few things in the process of doing it, but boy, what a pain, and what a newfound respect for you pros out there that get things like this into your shop, and you get assigned the work order, and you only have 30 minutes, maybe to an hour to diagnose this stuff, instead of the luxury of me taking almost a month to do it. But there you go. That's the long story. The short story is if you have 2 dashes, 9 out of 10 times it will be a body ground issue. where you can go through your vehicle, your Durango, your Dakota, possibly other vehicles, and make sure that your body grounds, like to your battery, from your engine to your frame or your body, exhaust body, those ground wires are clean and have a good connection. That'll fix the problem 9 out of 10 times. And then the next step, if that doesn't fix it, is start tracking down, if it is a software issue with the HVAC unit or the overhead unit itself. So, I hate for this video to be so long, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this cleaned up. I'm going to go ahead and put some heat shrink tubing on these wires and cover these bare wires up before I put them back together. And then get it all put back together and go about living with this thing for a couple more days, see how I think. But I'm going to go ahead and get this cleaned up, and I'll come back and show you the finished product. But there you go. I hope this helps somebody out there that's experiencing the same issue. There's pretty limited information out there unless you buy, the factory service manual set. I think there's 4 or 5 books, and you just happen to find the section in the body diagnostic manual going through this and testing everything. But I'll holler at you guys here in a minute. Alright guys, I'm back after a couple hours fiddling with this, and started to put the dash back together and found a small coolant leak, so I got that fixed. It was just one of the hose clamps was too loose from I guess being new or whatever. But give you an update, the whole dash is finally back together. And yes, I'm almost out of gas. I'm parked on an incline, so I think this thing says 0 destination till empty, 0. But I think I've got 7 or 8 more miles. I bet I can eke about maybe 5 or 6 more out of this thing. But anyways, there you go, guys. Overhead console with a mini trip computer installed in a Dakota or Durango that did not come with it. One thing I think I'm going to do, I'm going to sleep on it for the next couple of days, but I think I'm going to go ahead and put my other overhead console in and just use that for the fuel economy and timer. And then for compass and outside temperature, I think I'm going to look on eBay and see if I can find one of those that have the compass and temp over here. Because I don't know if I'm going to get used to this thing. Maybe I will. I don't know. I'll give you an update. Maybe this weekend I'll do another video if I decide to go this route. But I'll first look on eBay and see if I can find anything. If they're pretty reasonably priced, I'll probably do it. But anyways, not to make a long video even longer, just wanted to give you guys an update, and I've got a few more things I've got to do to this Dakota. That's just been eating at me. But I'll make some videos as I get those done, so you can see the progress of this thing. But if you have any questions or comments, definitely post them, and I'll certainly get back to you ASAP. But thanks for watching, and I hope this helps somebody out there. See you later, guys.